Hello, I'm Mike Colodi. I'm a new teacher at Sun this year in MYP Design and Computer Science. The IB profile trait for this Sun talk is thinker, and the topic I'm thinking about is professional use of social media in education for both teachers and students. So first I want to confess that in some ways I'm an unlikely person to be addressing this topic. My family does have a Facebook page, but it's never updated and nobody looks at it. I do have a smartphone, but my wife just has a prepaid burner type phone that doesn't even have a contract. I still get the New York Times delivered on paper. I have a LinkedIn account, but I haven't checked it for years. I'm telling you these things because you may have a similar level of experience and you may feel that professional use of social media is not for you. I'm just here to tell you that you can do it and that professional social media use may be more relevant to you than you think. The starting point for me in my own social media journey was through a STEM Leadership Fellowship I did during 2016-2017 through Michigan State University called MSU Urban STEM. The program was for Chicago public school teachers, and we met mostly in Chicago with one trip to Michigan State. A sample activity might be something like this one. With your team of 5, create a stop-motion video, apparently violating a law of physics. Your video needs to be published on Twitter with the MSU Urban STEM hashtag. You have 20 minutes. Go. Here's a quick fire, which is what they call these, with all these same elements, the timer, the design specifications, and then that it has to be published on Twitter. So at first I tweeted without a solid sense of why I was doing that. For some reason, I did embrace it more than some of the others did, but I didn't yet know where it would lead, and what or if the social media component of the program, if I would continue that after the fellowship was over. So one of the norms, it wasn't just that sometimes you handed in your work through some kind of tech tool, including a tool like Twitter, but it was also a norm to you're always in the green zone with a phone. You know, you could always, if you thought other groups were doing cool things, you could always just stand up, walk around, see what other groups were doing, tweet like right then and there, like about what they were doing with the hashtag. And not only was that embraced, it was encouraged. As I say, though, I wasn't always sure like why I was doing that or what the point was, even though it was a group norm. So why should you, as a teacher, possibly consider using Twitter or any social media tool as an educator? Okay, so reason why I want to give you first is the most basic one: learning from others. So right up here I have 2 examples I looked at last night without barely trying. It reminded me this was an opportunity that I really need to look at again. That the Museum of Science and Industry is running a series of maker trainings. Curie is involved. I was encouraged by this person who I know at Curie to try to do this at least next year. Over here, this person's talking about gamification elements, adding those to the classroom. You can get a real sense from Twitter about like what kind of topics are trending in education and are current, and like books that are important that people are talking about. Even just the other day, I had a new MYP design unit shared with me, like everything, all the criterion on kind of like an odd topic, which is making a game controller design challenge where students make a game and then they control it with a physical construction of their choosing, Play-Doh, construction paper, etc. And I never would have found that person or got that unit without Twitter. I mean, I had the whole unit, the criterion, everything. It was a great start. Okay. 2, a second reason to be on Twitter is to stay creative and positive. Green screens, stop motion animation. You know, the reality is we're going one-on-one devices at Sun next year. So is there a way that these technologies could be used for students to show their understanding to you that's more creative and engaging than what you've tried before? You might get an idea from your Twitter Professional Learning Network on how to do those things. to be inspired and inspire others. Like, I love this about Twitter. In this case, the picture on my left is an activity with my daughters, where I was trying this out with them before I did this with some students. And the design of this thing is actually more clever than maybe you'd think. This Play-Doh thing, it's actually a parallel circuit. It's kind of a sandwich with an insulator in between. And I think, that's the kind of thing that someone could contact me about if they were interested. How is that done? How could I do that with my students? And then on the right, I just wanted to share this because this woman, Amanda Haas, now she's retweeting somebody else's tweet, but here you have fourth graders working with Raspberry Pis, working with these Sense hats to building their own circuits. So this Amanda Haas is always inspirational to me because I'm amazed at the advanced things she does with elementary schoolers, and it makes me want to strive for more and to be better. Next, to support others and to receive support. So when you get likes from other teachers for your work and you like their work back, you feel like you're just not alone in your struggle, and you have an extended network of people beyond your building that you can ask for ideas. In this top one, this is a Michigan State fellow from an earlier cohort than I was in. I've never actually met her. I know she's at Amundsen. This just looked like an awesome math lesson where she was encouraging debate and argument, and it looked so great. And that's something like that I could follow up with her if I wanted to do that. Same down here. This is I think she's an applied math graduate student at Berkeley. She's doing some origami to teach some geometry standards. I just think it's awesome. And we really need to have each other's back, like when we try things like this that are a lot of work, that are risky, but that can really pay off for our students. Okay, next. And this is actually one of the most galvanizing things. Like, when I wasn't sure, still what I thought about Twitter or why I was even using it, this one. It's a little political in kind of a subtle way. So tell the story of your great public school. Well, I will bet that once a week or more, there's a great moment in your classroom that others need to hear about. If we teachers don't tell the story of these moments, others who have never set foot in public school classrooms will tell the story for us. We can think of Governor Rauner's famous comment about how most Chicago public schools are crumbling prisons. The narrative around race to the top, the current push for public money to go to religious schools. All of these have around them an essentially negative narrative about traditional public schools like ours. And I guess I would say the best weapon against statements like Governor Rauner's, that schools are like crumbling prisons, are images and stories of our kids doing positive things and us doing positive things with our kids. Up here on the left, also the power of just if we're all even in our own institution following each other. We're such a big school, there's so much going on, it's hard to take it all in. Here's a shout out to this freshman, Amar Ahmad, for wrestling. And then I see that, I can talk to him, I can mention it in class, I can mention it to his classmates. He feels like he's more a part of the community here. I recognize his achievements. Speaking of supporting each other, down here, these two tweets were on the last sensational Saturday before grades were due, and I got so many likes from other neighborhood schools up north. Schurz, Amundsen. It was exciting that all this positive stuff was going on Saturday, and that sometimes Freshmen on Track, it's so much hard work chasing these students down, and the kind of likes made me feel like, hey, we're all in this together, and it makes me want to kind of keep working hard. Another reason, inspire students and break down classroom walls. So you can use your 240 or 480 characters if you're using Twitter to tell the story of a student's achievement in your class. That's a great project. Right now, I am excited about this project you made. I'm going to tweet it right now to show the world. It's exciting. Students are proud of their work, and it's like from the Maker Manifesto, if you've ever read that, one of the tenets is you cannot make and not share, and this just kind of amplifies that sharing piece to the world. These are all our students here in Design 1. Okay, here, these are students from last year, but this one on the left I'm particularly excited about as an example of this is, this was a head-to-head Play-Doh-controlled Connect 4 game that this student made that I had, and that was actually retweeted by MIT Scratch and by CPS, and so that's going to go out to the nation, maybe the world. We had all these likes and retweets and comments from people like all over, and then you can show the student, like, look, you did this, people are excited about your work, it's awesome what you did, and it's kind of widely recognized, and it's easy to do. Next, and this is more a goal for the future here, but what I want to do, and maybe you all can help me and we can work together, where we actively teach students to make their own positive social media footprint. Where we work, where now students are managing their own accounts. Yes, they're using their real name. Yes, they're documenting positive things they do in and out of school. Yes, they're creating fashion sewing YouTube channels and sharing links of it with people on social media. I mean, just imagine or compare a student applying to college with just an admissions essay and a test score versus a student with a curated social media feed on a personal website showing all sorts of positive things they have done and accomplished. You're not just saying it. It's not just a mark on a paper. You can see what the student did. And I just think it's so much more powerful, and I really think that's the future. And then 7, it's kind of the same thing for teachers. For teachers, it's the same. When you share your work on social media, you're creating a running record of cool things you're doing. We could all use extra money for resources for our classrooms. We could all use awesome professional development that someone else pays for. It's so much easier to apply for grants when you have samples of your work readily available. Some grants now even ask for your website address and your Twitter handle. Just a quick story about this one. So this was at a Northwestern, a computational thinking workshop at Northwestern. And, the donor walked in, which I don't ever recall that ever happening before. So she had written this gigantic check for all this tuition that made the whole thing possible. I mean, it was this couple-week thing. And there was no sort of social media norm there, like Michigan State had, and so and there was no common hashtag, so we had the sensational hashtag. So there was no easy way to showcase to this person in a quick, understandable, easily digestible way what we were doing and why it was important. I mean, and often the terminal assignments for those classes were, formal papers, which, I mean, the donor, isn't necessarily interested in that. They want a quick sense of what it is that's engaging, and something simple like setting up a hashtag and encouraging people to tweet. You're going to have a bunch of stuff that then you could do something more formal with it. You could do the formal stuff in addition to it, but at least you have that instead of nothing, which is what we had. And I have not heard from them. It was supposed to continue this summer, and I almost wonder if a reason it isn't going to continue is because it's out of funding and because they didn't market themselves. So in summary, good reasons to use social media as an educator are to learn, to inspire, to support others, to teach your students to have a positive digital footprint for themselves, and to showcase your students' work, to break down the walls of your classroom, to allow your students' work, even traditional academic work, to have an authentic audience. And that is it.